Hi, and welcome to HallowScreen, the horror movie podcast that's only going to be airing in October. On this podcast, I talk with people that I know about their favorite horror movies of all time, and then I judge them for that. Today, I have Tom with me. Tom is a filmmaker, writer, director, and a close friend, and today we're going to talk about his horror movies. What is your favorite indie horror movie?
So I went with a little offbeat one that's never been heard of before, The Blair Witch Project. Yeah. Kind of the grandmother of all indie horror films.
What do you like? Why did that stand out to you amongst all the other?
It scared me. And don't come at me because I know that it's not scary. So I'm a little interested to find other people, like what other people think about it. Through the years, people have said, like, their reaction is like, huh? That's not scary. Like, nothing really seems to happen. And it doesn't on the screen so much as in my little brain. It was really scary. But to my credit, I watched it how I believe a horror film should be watched, at home.
At home alone?
No. In a theater, especially a crowded theater, is fantastic because you get all these other reactions. If you're at home, it should be dark, late at night, no one else around, preferably, and like all lights, like the DVD light, put a little sticky on it, like dark. And that's how I watched it. Because I went in, because this was after the whole fad. It was already on DVD. And I was like, all right, let me check this out. And nobody else wanted to watch it with me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on at midnight. And it terrified me.
Do you think it was just like the suspense that you knew it was a horror movie and then you were just kind of waiting for something scary to happen?
I don't know. I think the anticipation certainly helped because I was like, all right, well, this is going to be great, right?
Yeah.
Like Flounder in Animal House. And I think the anticipation of what's going to happen, and then really it's, like I said, it's just the reaction of three characters. There's a main character. And what they go through and their reaction to stuff. And you don't really, nothing really, it's things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I guess you could say it's like a kind of a haunted house film in the woods is what it's like. But yeah, it terrified me, even though not a lot was. I know I read the late great critic Roger Ebert. His take on it was the noise in the dark is almost always scarier than what makes the noise in the dark.
Yeah.
You know? And that's like a real good lesson for storytelling of any kind, but especially for a horror film. It's like more is less.
Yeah.
And that is a movie where...
You mean less is more?
What did I say?
You
did I
said
say
more is less.
Can we rewind it? I did say that, yeah. More is less. When would that ever be the case?
Well, let's move on.
Move on.
Let's move on. On the opposite end of the spectrum, what is your favorite mainstream horror movie?
I went with The Thing from 1982. One of my favorite movies, and especially horror movies. The difference between that and Blair Witch, it has tangible monsters in it, and these monsters are fantastic. So this is 40 years ago, this past summer, that this movie came out. And those special effects, to this day, rival, in my mind, any kind of special effects that I've seen, especially CGI, yeah, especially. And the story, I like the story. It's Kurt Russell is always good, and he kind of plays like a John Wayne sheriff, only in Antarctica. And there's a research station, and it's kind of like the movie is Alien at the South Pole.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
And
except anybody in the room could be the alien.
Right. So it's like shapeshifters It's different from the Alien because it takes the form of someone you don't know. And so what I was thinking was, okay, so in 1982, it had a lot of things going against it. I think it would do real well nowadays, and I don't know why they didn't bring it out during the middle of the pandemic. Well, I guess you don't know when the middle is, right? but when the pandemic was like at big, this would be like the perfect movie for that because it's got a lot of similarities to that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that hurt this film, 2 weeks earlier, E.T. came out. End of story.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I worked at a movie theater. I was an usher. I got to see this film like 100 times. It ran 5 times a day for probably 6 weeks. And this was a real favorite with all the ushers. We were like fine with being in the theater, in the auditorium during this. And
just like hearing the people's reactions and stuff. Like, how was that?
that was great. But then again, it didn't do that well. But even if there's very few people in a theater, a movie like The Thing is going to get some, some screams. And then on the weekend nights when it was packed, that's great. Like to hear that reaction is really exciting. And if you're not the least bit scared, that's going to help you get there.
Yeah.
But the special effects for this were they were so good. And it is a bleak story. The special effects are great. There were other choices to choose from, so it didn't do that well. But it's one of my favorites. Like it's like a go-to for me. Like I said, like not only horror, but just like all-around movies.
All right, what's your favorite foreign horror movie?
I feel like a good horror foreign movie is a great movie. I said it. But I went with, drum roll, The Babadook.
Such an interesting choice for how recent it is and everything.
So, yeah, well, like I said, this was not easy, and I do have some runners up for that.
Tell me about The Babadook.
Okay,
first.
so The Babadook is a single mom and her child, her 6-year-old son, and so it's kind of it's a haunted house film. It's supernatural, and it's depressing because her backstory. She is grieving the recent loss of her husband, and it's a downer. Like like, oh, you're kind of like, and so
especially for like any parent who's had to deal with like an unruly child of just being like annoyed, and
that could be a disclaimer, like don't come if you got
yeah.
No,
I think it makes it definitely relatable.
Yeah,
and I think that movie has like a resolution that you would not expect, as far as like, because at the end of like every horror movie, it's either the horror thing wins and
right.
they kill everybody, like The Thing,
right?
Which is kind of the end. We don't know, but that's kind of the end of The Thing. And then I'm gonna talk about the end of this movie.
Yeah, spoilers.
But but the end of this is that they don't defeat and banish the monster, the demon, or whatever, the ghost, or whatever it is. They keep it around.
They embrace it.
They embrace it.
Yeah,
which is, it goes back to the thing about like how pretty much all horror movies have this kind of message, right?
Yeah.
Because I talked with Trey earlier about It Follows, and I didn't mention it, but that's a movie about STDs, basically. I don't know if you've ever seen It Follows, but that's what the movie's about. It's about STDs. This movie, Babadook, is like,
okay.
What would you say that message is, like, at the end of the movie?
That grief or your whatever your monsters are, whatever your demons are, they're going to be there. So just get them some worms and feed them a little bit, maybe, or whatever. Just realize that you might need to get through something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this bad thing goes completely away.
Yeah.
Definitely like a huge metaphor we joke about that all the time. It's a metaphor, just a big metaphor in this one. The PD, the actual book, really sells it to me. Like it's just perfect.
And also, this is the second movie you've chosen in a row that has dogs dying in horrific ways. So this might be a theme with your other movies. We don't know yet, but
thanks a lot. Yeah.
I think you have a grudge against dogs.
Oh no.
What is your favorite horror comedy?
I went with One Cut of the Dead.
Yes.
And this is one that I think you told me about this. And
I have spread the gospel of One Cut of the Dead.
I think you may have said just stay with it.
Yeah. That's what I tell everybody. It's like you got to trust the process.
It's so funny because that first okay, so let me real quick. Oh, these are also are these film students? I'm trying to think if they're film students.
No,
it's a film crew.
Yeah.
And they're shooting a zombie movie. And they're in a what is it? It's an abandoned World War II Japanese facility, okay, which is a pretty cool location. And then they are attacked by real zombies. So what you first see are happenings of this film, and then it's kind of over the top, and you're like,
yeah. And there's parts that like lag and weird things are going on, and you're like, what is happening in this movie right now?
Yes, it's very...
and it's also all one shot.
37 minutes.
Yeah, all one shot.
Yeah. After that, the rest of the film, you discover that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than just what you saw.
Yeah.
This is one of those where I kind of don't want to, like, no spoilers at all, because you've got to see this film.
And you have to go in blind, and you have to experience the first 37 minutes.
Yeah. And then once you see it, the next time you see it, you're going to really be
paying attention.
Glued. Yeah. It's the kind of film where if you have the time to watch it back to back, that would be a film to do that with.
Yeah.
Because then you can pick up things because there's clues and stuff that happen it's just so good. It's deceiving.
It's definitely like it's so weird because you're watching the first 37 minutes, and in your mind you don't realize you're doing it, but you're making a list of everything that's weird to you.
Yes.
And then later on, everything that was weird is totally answered and more.
Yes.
So the first 37 minutes, I would say, is the horror, and then afterward, it's all the comedy of like everything that went in.
That's a really good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It does this twist midway.
It's definitely a horror movie that if you know someone who doesn't like horror movies, you can show them this movie, rest assured they will not be scared. It's okay. They will enjoy the movie at the end of it.
Isn't that true though? It's like it's standoffish. Like it's so over the top and ridiculous at first, and then they take a step back and it's okay. Like you feel safe watching this. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
All right, I want to jump to now your favorite black and white horror movie.
Oh boy, I'm trying to think if anything happens to dogs in this. I chose Freaks from 1932. This was a tough one too, though, because there's a lot of really good black and white horror movies. Mm-hmm. And this movie is not horrific really so much as just it's unsettling. There's about 20 actual circus freaks, who used to be called freaks, that are in this, and it's a story of a beautiful trapeze artist, and she agrees to marry one of the performers, and then all of his friends find out she's marrying him just for his money. So you get to meet all these different freaks that work at this circus, and it's just this was made before the Hays Code, like 2 years before the motion picture censor, before they start saying slow down Hollywood. And I don't think it may not have gotten made after that.
Yeah.
And it did not do well box office. It had a budget of $300,000, which is over $6 million today dollars. So it had a lot going for it, except it was not received well.
And I feel like because they're real people, the ending just makes it that much scarier because it's just like, oh my god.
The ending is
Like-
so bizarre. I don't even know where to go with the ending. I don't know. Like, I'm sure a lot of people like slammed it for that. It's so bizarre and over the top, and interesting. What it does during the film is it paints this picture that these handicapped, for the most part, circus performers, they are actually good people, good at heart. It's the quote unquote normal people
Yeah.
that are, the villains. It's not one that, I'm not watching it every year.
That movie's kind of like you watch it once and you learn your lesson.
It's kind of a one and done on that, I think.
What is your favorite horror sequel?
10 Cloverfield Lane.
Perfect.
Perfect, huh?
Perfect.
Did I win?
You won. What is your prize?
Yeah.
Should they have kept the Cloverfield name or just named it something different and just went with a different movie?
I would say about the first half or 2/3 is you're like, how is this tied in?
Yeah.
What in the heck? And like it's like two films in one.
Yeah.
I'll say. And the first part, and it's so it would be like a isolated or captured kind of scenario. It's got like Silence of the Lambs. Think Silence of the Lambs with John Goodman.
Yeah.
Putting lotion in the basket.
Goodman. I forgot that was him in the movie.
And it looks great. It's beautifully shot. So it's in like a bunker. So you've got there's these neat lighting things that happen, and it looks great. And then so they this is one that I want to read the tagline on it. So, waking up from a car accident, a young woman finds herself in the basement of a man who says he saved her life from a chemical attack that has left the outside uninhabitable. That's horrifying.
Yeah. And I think the biggest question throughout that movie is John Goodman telling the truth? Can we trust him?
Is he a good man?
Is John a good man?
Wow. We can take that out later, I think. It reminded me of Psycho a little bit. You have a damsel in distress and a guy that you're like not too sure about. Yeah. And I think as Forrest Gump would say, that's about all I'm going to say about that. Because this is a film that you must see. This is a must see as well. I will say that.
Your favorite horror franchise?
I went with Alien. And so I almost... Well, don't say it like that.
I'm just saying, because you're taking all of it. You're not just taking Alien and Aliens. You're taking Alien 3. You're taking Alien Resurrection.
I'm taking it all.
You're taking Alien vs. Predator. You're taking Prometheus.
Yep.
You're taking all of the Alien movies.
I'm taking all of them. Covenant. Yep. I'm taking all of them. We're going in.
And you're like, yes, favorite franchise.
Yeah, all the ones you mentioned. Yeah, maybe not so much. Really, I wanted to get. It's nice to get Alien and Aliens in there.
Yeah.
Like
even though I would say Aliens is not a horror movie.
Well, that's interesting.
I think it's an action blockbuster.
Well, it is.
Sci-fi.
It is. Okay, so that's really interesting. I guess an Alien is kind of a slow burn.
Yeah.
Aliens is like frenetic.
Yeah.
Energy, definitely. Yeah. That's a good. Yeah, more of an action.
Yeah, the first one's definitely like a straight up horror movie.
Yeah.
Aliens, it's thrilling for sure.
Yeah.
Scary, I don't think so. Action packed.
Oh, it would be though.
Oh, yeah, it would be, but we're not there.
I guess what's funny about that is that like it's already been established.
Yeah.
And so that's what Alien, like the first one has a hard time. You have to establish.
Yeah.
That's kind of and then the second one has that benefit or not. So I get what you're saying.
What is your favorite modern horror movie less than 5 years old?
Oh, this was tough. This was a tough one. I went with Host, which came out 2 years ago.
That was a perfect movie to come out when it did.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So basically the story is 6 friends do a weekly Zoom, and one week they invite a medium to conduct a seance. A Zoom seance. I remember when I first heard about this, and because when the pandemic started, I started a weekly Zoom. I started hosting a weekly Zoom for my family, and we've been doing this Zoom call every Sunday night since the middle of March 2020. And I remember when I heard about this, I thought, wow, a Zoom seance. Like, that's just like, it's brilliant.
It just hit so close to home for so many people.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I remember one time it was, my neighbor asked me, do you know anyone who's got COVID? I don't know anyone. That was early.
Yeah.
Now it's like everyone knows. Well, the same was with Zoom. Like, I don't think I know anyone who is not Zoomed. Like, I think everyone knows of that. And that's the thing about, I think, with what makes a good film, especially a good horror film, is how relatable it is to other people. So if you've never Zoomed, it might not have as much, but I think knowing that this is something that, I don't know, it just is close to home. And what I really like about it is, at one point, you've got not just one composition you're looking at 6 compositions, like, oh, something's going to happen. I know something's going to happen. Nothing happens. And then something happens. And and the box office from that was $443,000, which might not seem like a lot when you're talking millions, but compared to $35,000 it is, and it came out 30 July of 2020. Like, I don't even, when I read that about the box, I'm like,
theaters were closed.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Who was open? Who was going to theaters?
Who was? I don't know. We need to talk to those people.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
What is your favorite gory scene from a horror movie?
Oh, boy. Okay, there's a little scene in a film called Bone Tomahawk.
There you go.
Another film that you told me about. What is wrong with you?
That's crazy.
And I remember you're like, did you see Bone Tomahawk? No. What's that? Okay. Just watch it. I don't know. It was like, you really didn't give me anything.
I feel like all my recommendations are like, you just watch it.
It should be. And it should be, right? Yeah. And if you tell me if you say you got to see this, I see it. Whatever it is, for better or worse, it's always better.
So it's a Western. I wouldn't say it's a horror Western, but it's a Western with horrific scenes.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And I think that makes it a horror movie, with how graphic and brutal that the movie is.
That and the fact that Kurt Russell is in it.
Kurt Russell
also makes
Kurt Russell
also makes it a horror movie, yeah. So he plays a sheriff, and they go after, so there's these cave dweller people, troglodytes, that you find out about later. And like you said, the first part, like a lot of it's just a regular Western. I enjoyed it, and it's got like a slow burn to it. But as far as story and characters and little things, I enjoyed that part of the Western. It was good. And then all of a sudden, they run up on these cannibalistic cave dwellers. And boy, oh boy, there's a scene that is just, I watched it again yesterday, and I'm just like,
it's watching, even if you don't like Westerns or if you don't like Kurt Russell, the whole movie is worth watching just for the scene that Tom is referencing. Because, man, it's brutal.
It's brutal. And then the fact that the character, what's really interesting about that scene is you got this gory thing happens. Kurt Russell is locked up in a pen in this cave, and he watches the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, oh, he's turning away, so I'm going to turn away. It's like you're watching him, and he's just staring, and he is trying to coax the guy who is getting these things done to him, like, hang in there. We're going to get these people. We're going to bring this to justice. And he's doing all that, and it almost seems laughable, but he's kind of going through some shock as well.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to ease this man's pain in his last moments.
All right, forget everything you've heard. For everything you said,
Mm-hmm.
forget everything you've seen.
Yeah.
What is your all-time favorite horror movie?
This one right here that we're
This one.
making right here. This is. I got runners up for this too. But I have to go with The Shining. I did. That was my first choice. It could very well have been my mainstream choice. In fact, The Shining and The Thing are definitely two of my favorite movies. But The Shining has a little bit of something for everyone. You know?
Let's list them out. Number 1.
Isolation. Okay.
Number 2.
A man doing his best to fight alcoholism.
Number 3.
Number 3, it has an Indian burial ground
Oh man, I'm seeing where this is going.
underneath the Overlook Hotel. Everything from opening shot music. So it's like a haunted house film.
Yeah.
And it's like so much more. There's so much story, so many layers. Like for me, it's not that scary of a film, except for one thing. There's one thing in that film that really scares me. Actually, two things. The twins.
The twins, yeah.
That's what does it for me. That just freaks me out. Like they just stand there. They don't have to do anything. And that goes back to less is more. Like they just stand there and don't do anything. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Who were they? Where did they come from?
Where did they go?
Where
did
they
they
go?
come from? Cotton
Why?
Eye Joe.
What? Yeah, exactly. They start singing that, and it's like it's over. It has kind of an open ending as well.
Yeah.
Like
you really have to interpret what you think. What
it's
happens.
up to you what goes on there, right?
Yeah.
But I can't go wrong with it. It's definitely one that I can like count on. You know, if it's like, I need to see The Shining. You know, it's like I definitely turn to that.
Okay, top 5 horror movies, real quick.
The Thing, The Shining, Southern Comfort,
Southern Comfort. Okay.
Exorcist, and then I'm gonna go with I guess Babadook. I would have to say, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Southern Comfort is not. I think it's a drama thriller.
Yeah.
But to me, it's such a thriller to me that it's a fine line. There's a gray area there when it comes to horror, I think. And there's some horrific things that happen in it.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There might be something that happens to a dog too in it. I'm seeing a pattern. There really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right, that's it. We did it.
We made it.
Those are all your favorite horror movies. How do you feel?
Do I get the job?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're hired.
That's all that
You're
matters.
hired.